Yeah, so in terms of Newcastle, what do you think their stance will be? Do you think they'll be openly supportive of City on this issue? Because surely scrapping the ATP rules would maybe benefit them too.
Yeah, I think one of the sort of surprises is that actually Newcastle are not more front and centre in respect of these rules, but because the club that clearly has been most damaged by the introduction of new rules, and the club that the rules were targeting, were Newcastle. I don't think anybody within the Premier League would deny that. I mean, if you look at the dates of the rules and you look at the process that went on around it, it's very clear that these were Newcastle rules. The second part, the February rules, actually may have been Chelsea rules. So it's not a big surprise that Chelsea have stuck their hand up in support of City, because I think the February 2024 rule extensions, I think potentially were related to on the back of the Infinite Athlete sponsorship deal, just strengthening some of the provisions around that. So, but the rules clearly were focused on Newcastle and preventing Newcastle's sort of emergence, particularly after the early success that they had. I think it became even more important for the other major clubs to try and stymie their growth at this point. They're obviously keeping a close eye, and ultimately, if City are running the case, then Newcastle don't need to. I think there's no question they'll be in support. How publicly, I don't know, but there's no question that they want City to overturn those rules, because it will have a big impact on Newcastle's ability to compete. I mean, you do have the situation right now where there is a pretty good chance that Newcastle need to sell a player before 30th of June, or they will fail this year's PSR. Now, they may take a view on that and say, actually, we'd rather keep the player and take the penalty, but that is in place. Clearly, if there wasn't the associated party rules, it would be easier for them to navigate PSR. So, yeah, they'll support City. How vocally they'll do it, who knows? I mean, again, we're basing it off that one article.
There have also been reports that Everton could be in support of City's case. Why would they be in favour of the rules being scrapped?
Yeah, well, historically, Everton have benefited greatly from sponsorships from people like USM. USM, over the years, which is Usmanov's vehicle, over the years, USM has been a related party, but then ceased to be a related party. So at the point that it ceased to be a related party, those deals with USM fell out of the sort of net of the Premier League until the associated party rules came in. Now the associated party rules are in play. Some of those deals would be prevented or would need to be shown to be fair value under the stringent rules. But most importantly for Everton, of course, is that they're up for sale. So for the clubs who are trying to sell themselves, you want as little regulation as possible for a club that's for sale, because what they want to be able to do is actually make an impact if they were purchased. And clearly, if you can invest in a club that you buy, it makes it a more interesting proposition. If you're bound by the sorts of limits that Everton are likely to be bound by over the next 5 to 10 years, there's actually very little that a new owner can do to move the dial on their league performance. They'd have to be incredibly smart to work with the budget that they're going to have to be able to compete at the top of the table. And clearly that therefore would be a disincentive for a new buyer. So I think Everton would also be quite pleased if they could put some of the extended APT rules in the bin and go from there. But I think it's more about the attractiveness of the asset in a sale proposition, but also with reference to the historic benefits that they've had from people like Usmanov.
So obviously the takeover deal seems to be dead in the water with 777. Do you think Everton are now racing against the clock to find new bidders, as 777 were obviously providing a lot of the cash to cover the operational costs?
Yeah, so look, it's unclear how the cash flow has worked over May, June, and sort of looking forward. Clearly, at the end of every month, you have a bit of a cash crunch when you have to pay most of your wages. So you know that there's a big need for cash then. They obviously got through May, because otherwise we'd know about it. We're not aware that they're behind with any of the sorts of payments that you would ordinarily see in a crisis situation. So they've obviously, from somewhere, received enough cash to pay the bills. They will have another crunch in June. The question will be whether they used Premier League money to pay the bills in May, or whether the Premier League money is going to come in June. If it's coming in June, it will get them through June. We know that there will be another payment from the Premier League for next season in July, so that will get them through July. But at some point, they will have a need for additional external third-party cash.